Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending our Designing CU-Based Loan Products class. Your instructor today is Beth Barron, and we expect this class to last about an hour long. As you joined us today, all phones are placed on mute to eliminate any type of background noise and interruptions. To facilitate answering questions you have during the broadcast, we will be using the chat feature. You can find the chat feature by hovering over the bottom of the presentation screen. You should then see a toolbar with a series of icons. Click the one that says chat, then select to present and type your question. Questions can be sent in at any time. We'll be stopping throughout the presentation to answer these questions. We appreciate your attendance. With that, I'll turn it over to Beth.
Good morning. So for today's class, we're going to start with the loan products, which would be tool number 470. When you go into tool 470, you'll see the list of the loan products that are in a drop-down menu when your staff goes into start a loan request. So in looking at a loan product, if you see, you can number your products. The sequence number here is a sequence they would show in home banking, the name of your product, and the loan category they're attached to. And I apologize, we're in a test credit union, so the holiday loan is attached to a new car loan category. Once you go into your product, you have some options here. You have some general loan information, loan product defaults, insurance or debt protection, online banking. You can put in member sales information, your defaulted loan forms, an online checklist. You could put in procedures for a new staff member so that they would know what they need to do for certain types of loans. And then you can also put in marketing tips that they would see in home banking. We're going to start with general loan information to begin with. Now I'm just going to kind of click on all of these tabs and go through all of the tabs. So we are in the general loan information. This is where you can name your product. This is where you can attach a loan category. So if we wanted this to be an installment loan instead of a car loan, we could fix it here. Use application workflow styles. Within CU-Base, you can set up different workflow styles. And what that does is when you are in the loan app, with the 10 tabs across the bottom, you can say hide some if your credit union does not use them to make things a little smoother for your staff members. The next box is the product code base rate. So that would be the base rate for this holiday loan. If you had any fees to be included in your modified APR, they could be entered here. We can default the collector ID. Collector ID is required on loan creation. If you do indirect lending, you could require that the dealer ID is always required. We can have miscellaneous loan coverages on the loan, and then we could also prompt to run loan deal filters on applications. The next section here is we have you could do a variant for the delivery channels if you wanted to say minus 0.25 for an online application. If you use risk-based pricing, we can check this box and you can enter your risk-based pricing table. Here are the defaults for the terms. So this one is monthly for 12 months. This is where you put in your purpose code for this product. I'm going to change it to personal, security code unsecured. This is where you can default your delinquency code so your staff doesn't have to enter it. And if it was an auto loan, I could default this for auto collateral so that they would be prompted automatically to enter it. ECOA code defaults to a 1 when you do a loan request. There is always at least one person on the loan request. This is for our loan quoter, so you can quote this in loan quoter at different payment frequencies. This is going to default to a general loan versus a lease or a balloon. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, which will take us into the miscellaneous coverages. From here, I'm going to add a coverage. This is where I could add my CPI insurance or gap insurance if whatever I was selling wanted to cross-sell to the member. Now we are in our risk-based pricing table. If I highlight and click change, this is where you put your risk-based pricing in. So depending on the credit score, it will pull the appropriate rate into the loan application. Now we're into loan product defaults. So what these are is what we've entered on the first screen. I can choose to show the frequency and protect it. I can choose not to even show it, so it always default to monthly payments. If a variable rate code was attached, I could show it or protect it. Some of the things I want to point out is first payment day, minimum number of days. So the system will go out 30 days. Or I could default this that I want my first payment defaulted to 45 days. We can also default the day of the first payment. So for instance, if this was a HELOC and your payments are always due on the 25th of the month, I could make this the 25th of the month. You can also use account open reason codes, and it would default to a reason code of why they were selecting this loan. This one is the holiday loan special. And please keep in mind that this is just a test credit union, so we kind of just play and create things. Sometimes that doesn't make any sense. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And now we are into the default for insurance or debt protection. And this credit union offers debt protection. So this is where we can enter all of our debt protection codes that would be applicable. So I could enter the second debt protection. And this would just give me choices when I go to create the loan for your staff to choose from. Our next screen is online banking. So this one is going to be in sequence 1. It will say holiday loans, a little teaser rate here that will display to your members. This one is available for application. You have your option of application or information only. When selecting application, this is where this bottom box appears. So it's going to default in home banking as frequency of monthly, defaulting the purpose security code, the fine ID, the purpose code. You can put in optional purpose codes if you choose, and you can put in optional terms if you choose. And I'm going to say no collateral for this because this is a signature loan. And this is where I could put in some defaulted debt protection coverages for your member to choose from. Any questions so far? So from here, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Takes us into our next screen where we've defaulted in some sales information. We have a URL that the member can click on to find out more information, and some instructions for the member. From here, we can default the loan forms that are required for this loan. So for this loan, we have a consumer price you pay for credit that will automatically pop up when I create the loan. So depending on the type of loan and what type of loan forms you have would dictate which ones you are selecting here. Now we have the electronic checklist. So this is built within CU Base. So these are things that you would need for this type of loan, which would be a signature loan. In this example, they need income verification and proof of insurance. Maybe it's an auto loan, you need the purchase agreement, you need proof of full coverage insurance. So these are all things that can be added by just clicking and adding the next task. So these are things that you would want your staff to update on an ongoing basis if you had an electronic checklist attached. So now we have some procedures. So this is where we've typed in some samples. So this would just give your staff, if they weren't sure what to do, they could click on procedures of what they needed for this type of loan. If you had marketing tips, you could give a URL link here and a comment to say, click on the URL listed above. So these are all the defaults in a loan product. So loan products are attached to loan categories. Loan categories are what drives this loan, how is interest calculated. So for instance, this is a mortgage fixed, a home equity. You could have an interest-only product, which is all derived by the actual loan category itself. I'm going to go into a loan category and discuss some of the things in a loan category. To get to loan category, I'm just going to cheat and go by my search for. And I'm just going to go into view category configuration. I'm going to go into an overdraft category just because there's an extra screen on the category. So within this is the loan category. So the full description, abbreviated description, if your full description is long. What type of loan is it? This is an open line of credit. We've given it available suffix ranges. We've given it a low and high interest rate that's available for this type of loan. Interest is being calculated on 365 versus 360 or 360 post. How are payments being calculated? This one is principal and interest versus an interest-only product. And our payments are single payment per period. You have some options here. I can say single payment per period, or the member can pay ahead. Unless it's a 360 loan, when you select member can pay ahead, they can pay ahead as many months as they would like. If it's a 360 calculation, then you can select the numbers of months that they can pay ahead. With this line of credit loan, we are going to use review date for disbursement. What this means is once a member has passed their review date, what will happen is they can no longer get an advance from this loan. So they are then what we refer to as in the repayment phase. I can warn the teller if the payment amount is different. I can allow tellers to make disbursements on this product. I can allow payment protection. I can allow nicknames for the accounts. And this is where we have the delinquency notice group. So you can have different notices for a general loan. And I'm going to go back into the change so I can hit the drop down. It'll be easier for you guys to see. So I can have different delinquency notices depending on the type of category it is. So if it's a general loan, such as a consumer loan, a signature line of credit, auto loan, holiday loan, I could do a general notice. If it was a HELOC or a mortgage, I could do a mortgage delinquency notice. You can create your own notice for the other section, or I could have a credit card notice if it was an online credit card product. We do have payment controls, so allow partial payments, allow partial escrow payments, and allow payment prior to first payment date. So you can set up those restrictions. And then in audio and online banking. So I can allow disbursements from online banking for this line of credit product. You can set a minimum disbursement amount. So if it's a HELOC and your minimum disbursement for your HELOC is $500 to maybe $1,000, you could put the minimum disbursement amount and the max they could disperse. If you put in the maximum here of all nines, that does not override the category and the limit you have set. That just means if I had a zero balance, I could advance them entire loan or available balance on my loan. This is set to allow payments versus online banking. Maybe it's a 360 mortgage category and you don't want to allow payments on online banking. You could unclick this box. You could allow principal-only payments. You could allow disbursements via text transfers and payments via text transfers. You can also, from here, view your underwriter limits if you have them set up. So within this category, you could see your employee ID, their name, what their approval limits are for this type of category. Go ahead and hit enter and go to our next screen. The GLs that are attached to this loan category are on the left side. On the right-hand side, how is this payment being divided when it's applied? They're going to take the fine first, then any interest due, and apply the rest to principal. Anything over and above the scheduled payment will go to principal. We are not sending a 1098 for this product, so we'll also automatically send a 1098 to a mortgage product, but maybe this is a large RV loan that requires a 1098. You could select that so it would send a 1098 in addition to your mortgage products. This is where you'd indicate if it allows escrows. And now we are into the third screen, which applies only to line of credit loans. This is set up to do automatic payment changes. Based on any transactions, you have the option of any transaction or disbursement. You have your options of when it's going to process, whether we're going to process interactively, which would mean immediately when they happened. Daily, they would happen at end of day. And monthly, if you process them monthly, then you need to select a day that they will process. So this category is set up to monthly and the last day of the month. So what would happen is if I got an advance on the 20th of the month, on the 31st, it would look at my last dispersed balance and recalculate my payment. Payments are calculated based on a range, percent, fixed, maturity, or table. With a grace periods apply to interactive only. And this one is set for 15 days. That's from a zero balance. So what will happen is if I had a zero balance and I got an advance on the 5th and my payment was due on the 15th, it would advance out 15 days and make my payment the next month. So you can also allow rate adjustments via intro rates. We can allow maturity dates fixed for variable changes. You can select to round payment up to the next whole dollar. You can use tiered rates and repayment calculation, and also set a minimum payment amount. So that pretty much covers the category. Does anyone have any questions on loan categories? So things are a little bit different between a line of credit loan and let's say an installment loan. An installment loan, again, we're going to have our descriptions. This one is using business units. So you can track loans by business units if you set up business units for your credit union. And that's just a way to get, also easier way to get reports based on business units. Again, our interest rate, our high and low. This one is a principal and interest payment, single payment per period versus can pay ahead. So again, this one is set up that they also have money going to a general ledger. What they're going to do is it's going to set $10 every time they make a payment to Feed the Hungry program. So I'm going to go into a loan request right now. So I'm going to get rid of my category, refresh my screen. So when I go into WorkView application status, and if I select new application, when I go into loan request, and I pick the holiday loan, you will see the default here that we've set up. So the number of payments has defaulted in, my reason code defaulted in, it's a general loan, the base rate defaulted in based on my credit score. My application date is today, but we set our payment date 45 days out and on the 25th. So I'm not due July 8th or July 25th. I'm due August 25th based on that calculation. We've defaulted the purpose and security codes. Our fine ID has all been defaulted for us. With this, your staff could also change purpose and security code. So I can change anything that is in a box. So maybe they want this for 9 months. I can change the number of payments. When I hit enter, I need to put a dollar amount they're requesting. Because I selected a blended coverage, I will need to put in a birth date for the co-borrower. So to get this to populate, I can just use today's date, refresh my screen by hitting enter, and then I can select my debt protection coverages if necessary. Right now we have miscellaneous coverages exist because we had a default coverage on there. So I'm going to click on miscellaneous coverages. And if I was selling gap, I would highlight and change. And this is where I could put in the new fee for my gap. Now this one is set to automatically default and go out and get gap coverage from a third party. So that's why I couldn't update this one. But maybe I was not charging a loan fee. I could highlight and delete this coverage. I'm not selling gap, so I'm going to delete that coverage and enter to go back to the same, or arrow up to go back to my screen to get rid of my miscellaneous coverages. So now I could sell my debt protection to the member. Also within loan products, we have our defaults. But say our member wanted a payment of $275. I could type in the payment amount they wanted. I would clear out number of payments. When I hit enter, I'm going to click debt protection. So if you notice, I now have $275 for my monthly payment, whether I have insurance or debt protection, or no insurance or my debt protection. So it's just sometimes an easier way to cross-sell to your member if they want a certain payment amount, if your policy allows to maybe go over your set number of payments, because it could increase the term over if this was a 36-month loan. Any questions so far? So I'm going to talk about also purpose and security codes and where those are configured. So you can configure your purpose codes within Tool 706. So with purpose codes, within our purpose codes, we do have the credit bureau account type that's associated to. So keep in mind, purpose codes are what reports to the bureau. And this is where you find the list of how the code that should be used. I think we have this one as auto. So this would be unsecured. So that's where your purpose codes are stored in Tool 706 and your credit bureau account types. Security codes if I could spell code correctly. Security codes are in Tool 785. And again, this is where your list of security codes, you can find them, and this is where you could add a new code. So if I notice here, I don't have code 16. If I needed to add a new one, this is where I could type my new security code. If you needed a printed list, the same with purpose codes, there is an availability to print a list of them from here. If you are in working with a member's loan, and I'll just go to inquiry. And if I inquire on my member's loan, inquire on his new car loan, you can see the loan category that this is attached to. So if you're not sure if a category is interest only on how payments are being applied, you could click on the loan category, which would give you a view of just the loan category itself so that you can see how that actual loan should be working, what GLs is it attached to, the order payments are being applied in. So just a way that all staff can see how this loan should be operating. Any additional questions? I'm going to go in, if we don't have any, I'm going to go into the WorkView application status and quick talk about the dashboard. So this is our loan dashboard. It defaults to a 30-day time frame, but maybe I want to just look at all loans for the month of June. I could do June 1st to June 30th. And I could get a snapshot of just this time frame. From here, I could go into activity tracking. And I could see how many applications we've had in the first week of that month, the second week, the third week. Because we did a 30-day time frame, this is the fourth week of the month. So I have a total of 1,834 pending applications still from June. Nothing's been denied in the month of June. 15 loans have been booked. I can also break this down by loan category, by underwriter code of who approved the loan, the interviewer who entered the loan, or the underwriter ID of the person. Underwriter code would be what codes they put on, such as approved, approved with conditions, waiting for information. And I could get it by also which underwriter, who's approved what loans. I could get the loan product code, which is which products, maybe if you're doing a loan special and you want to look at how many loans came in through that holiday loan special. So it looks like we haven't had a whole lot of questions. One thing I want to talk about is how do I change the rates on my loan products? And if I type in the word rate, I can see down at 20506, member rate maintenance, or my shortcut, rate main. If I select rate maintenance, if I'm updating rates on my loans, I can click loan rate maintenance, and this is where I get a list of all of my loan products. So I can go down the list and change the rates on my loan products in one screen instead of going in and out of all of my products. So it's a little faster to change base rates. So maybe my base rate on my new indirect auto is not 0.299. So if I change the rate here, if I do risk-based pricing and my risk-based pricing table remains the same, all the products will trickle through and correctly update all of my tiers by changing the base rate from this screen here. I can also select all of my online banking products at a glance. This way I know which products I have in online banking. If they are locked and you can't change the rate here, that is telling me that they are attached to a variable rate code, and that is what the variable rate code is at. I can show by loan category if I just maybe wanted to see all my, or just my installment loans, which products are attached to that. So just different ways to sort through and update rates. If you ever get a message in that screen saying out of tolerance, that means what it's doing is your highest tier would usually push your rate above the maximum allowed for that category. You would, if that happened, have to go into the actual loan product, into your risk-based pricing table. So I'd come in my general loan information. I would go into my risk-based pricing table. We'll use holiday loans since this one does not have a risk-based pricing table. Click on change here. If you get that message, it's pushing this top rate above your high limit that you have set for your category. So we do have a good question here for maximum days for first payment. So I'm going to go back into my general. Nope, loan product default. We don't actually have a maximum. So usually what I tell people is when you set first number of payments to go out, like we have 45 days here, I recommend that you can set it at your highest number of days and then teach the staff, you can always back it up. You never go forward with the date. This is the furthest out it could go. We do have a project sheet, and I apologize, I don't know the project sheet number, but if you notice here, we have review date, number of days before maturity. We have a project sheet in place to change this to number of months or years before maturity. So your line of credit products, if I have a HELOC product that I can borrow for 5 years, 5-year draw, 10-year repayment, I can set this review date to default in to the 5 years or 60 months so the staff does not have to remember to back up my review date. Any more questions? That was a great question. Thank you very much. Bear with me. We have another question. Okay, pardon? Yes?
I have a question, Ms. Beth. This is Brent Patty. It's a little bit more specific about the paid ahead details on a 365 calculation. Kind of
Okay.
backtrack here. Is there a way to set it up to where if it is on a 365 calculation to where it would only be able to pay ahead 2 months?
Unfortunately, no, there is not. Right now with 365, they can either pay ahead or they cannot pay ahead. So what we recommend is that you watch your paid ahead loan report. So yeah, currently that only works for the 360 loan category.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And I think that was the same question I had. So thank you. I had two people ask the same question at the same time. So it looks like we're running awfully fast today. So if I don't have any more questions, you guys are free to go.
And Ms. Beth, one more question is,
Yeah.
will this be replayable? I did have a staff member who got on late due to some issues. Is this thing webinar, is it replayable for her?
Yes, they are recording this.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions? Thank you very much for attending today, and I hope this helps you out. If you have any questions, feel free to email lendervp@cuanswers.com.